There's a question that a lot of people are asking right now, and that is how should European leaders be trying to support Ukraine as the United States recedes from that role? European leaders recently approved a loan of about $105 billion to Ukraine. And sure, that's something, but there's still something more that they could be doing. And that is the $300 billion that they have access to in frozen Russian assets. This is being held by a Belgian-based financial services company called Euroclear. And this is where we fall into some of the spy area that I cover. And I'm going to be featuring reporting of another group. It's not just that Belgium's prime minister says that he personally has been threatened by the Russians for retaliation, as well as his country. And it's also not just that the Bank of Russia has now filed a lawsuit against Euroclear. There's this UK-based organization called the Dossier Center, and this is funded by Mikhail Khodorkovsky. He is an oligarch who made it big in Russian oil, was complimentary toward Putin, and then became a critic. Got thrown in prison, served his time. Now he lives in exile. He's behind the Dossier Center, which has done numerous investigations into Kremlin corruption. So the Dossier Center, along with the EU Observer and Belgian publications, they have some very interesting reporting that I'm going to be talking about right now because, in light of the loan that was approved, I think this is worth covering. They claim that there is a French banker named Olivier Huby, and I never took French, so I'm probably messing up the pronunciation of his name. But they say that this man, who is on the board for a Euroclear subsidiary, he has tried to get Euroclear's CEO and a Euroclear executive to not only meet with Russian intelligence officers, but that he also threatened them after they refused. Quote, he was said to have first approached the CEO, Valerie Urbane, at a high-level meeting shortly after she became CEO on the 7th of May, 2024. He, Huby, said to her, "Two friends of mine want to see you." He showed her their photographs on his phone, two highly ranked Russian intelligence officers. Now, the Dossier Center also found that Huby had flown to Russia in a decade 155 times across the country to different places, not just Moscow and St. Petersburg. They also say that he is a member of the Russian Geographic Society, which is chaired by Putin, also had involvement from the former defense minister Sergei Shoigu, and who has worked with Russia's military. Here's another section I want to read out loud to you. Quote, Huby also asked a member of Euroclear's executive committee in mid-2024 to meet Russian intelligence contacts and threatened that his house might, quote, catch fire, or that his pet might, quote, die suddenly if he did not comply. The journalists claim that Huby cited a violent incident that had happened earlier that year outside of a bar and said to the Euroclear CEO, "You don't want to end up like that, do you?" The idea, of course, here is that this would scare the CEO and the executive enough that they would then put pressure on European officials to say, don't touch that money, leave it where it is. We don't want this retaliation from the Kremlin. And the Euroclear the CEO, Valerie Urbane herself, told a French newspaper, Le Monde, that Euroclear would not rule out suing the EU, saying that this confiscation would be illegal and that it could also weaken the European Union. Of course, we all know that what Russia is doing in Ukraine is highly illegal. There's even a source in this article who has said that not only might this man be working for Russia, but that he might also have worked for French intelligence. The journalists say that they found a presentation that Huby made where he described working for French embassies in Prague and Moscow during the Cold War. Now, Huby has denied any links, any of these allegations that the journalists have made, and through a spokesperson said that he goes to Russia because he really likes the Bolshoi ballet. Make that what you want, but it is scary when you're going after a bank or a banker because you could be talking unlimited funds, especially if the guy is backed by the Kremlin. Now, I contacted the Dossier Center directly, and what I was told was that this journalist had security concerns and that this investigation is ongoing. And the security concerns, there's good reason for that. Back in 2018, there were 3 journalists from the Dossier Center who were traveling inside the Central African Republic, reporting on Russia's paramilitary, the Wagner Group, and they were killed. That investigation was held up, obstructed, nowhere, and very, very concerning. But back in 2021, I actually interviewed Khodorkovsky himself. And this is what he told me, quote, "The West should understand that they are dealing with a gangster leader of a criminal gang. And because he's a gangster, there's no point in talking values with a gangster. It's better to come to specific agreements on specific issues." That was, of course, in reference to Vladimir Putin. He went on to say something that felt very telling for this moment, quote, "Putin wants to split the European Union. He wants a fragmented European Union. He wants also to split the European Union from the United States." Now, I also reached out to another journalist from the EU Observer who was involved in this investigation, have not yet heard anything back. But all of this comes after the first female head of MI6, the British equivalent to the CIA, Blaise Mitrewelli, said last week, quote, "Russia is testing us in the gray zone with tactics that are just below the threshold of war. It's important to understand their attempts to bully, fearmonger, and manipulate us because it affects us all." All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope everybody has a good day. Take care. Thanks for watching and appreciate you subscribing and following my work.